Hello everybody and welcome to the channel, Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host of course, Krabby Terror 8, and here we are in episode 31 of season 2 of the Investigator Games. Yes, the second half of this season heading to the end in the next few months, and we're here with everybody's favourite violinist and survivor of the Dream Eaters campaign, Patrice Hathaway. Yes, and for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. What is the Investigator Games? Well, it's like the Hunger Games. We take each investigator, true solo, through a scenario. Now in season 1, that was The Gathering, and I would recommend you have a look at those. And in season 2, it's the Midnight Masks. And we put them through, see how they go, and depending on how they go, they end up in a league table like this one, and we can see now these have got the carryover points from the first season, and the table goes from the tip top all the way down to the bottom. There are 30 people in there and a few more to go, and we can see how they do, and we can see at the moment that Leo is topping the table for very good reason. He got Leo DeLuca out really early, and that helped and made sure he did that relatively fast. We can see, though, that if you took turns per cultist, I suppose, then Roland is probably the fastest. Although, as you can see in the table from last week, which was Mandy, she did that pretty fast as well. In fact, it was a blinder of a scenario, lots of doom, and I kind of wondering how she would have gone if she hadn't quite pulled as many cultists and dooms out of the event encounter deck. So yes, now spoilers. If you are brand spanking new to Arkham Horror, the card game, then I would heartily recommend that you play the game in real life first. You watch some introductory videos on how to play. I'm assuming you know how to play a little bit. And of course, if you haven't played the Midnight Masks or The Gathering, I would also heartily recommend that you do those first. Also, I would heartily recommend my in-depth videos on The Gathering and the Midnight Masks, which cover just about everything about these two scenarios. So I would recommend that you have a look at those too. I think they're well worth watching. So yes, here we are with Patrice Hathaway, the violinist. As always, I like to go through her key stats just to remind myself of what I'm supposed to be doing. With so many investigators now, it can be sometimes hard to remember what half of them do. So let's just go through her stats, go through the back of her card. Let's go through the upgrades that I've also made from the Gathering. And then we can go ahead and wait for the bell to go to start the scenario. So yeah, Patrice Hathaway, interesting stat line here. Clearly willpower is good at a very respectable 4, but everything else is at a 2, which, although not disastrous, is not great. So we already see that this is going to be an unusual investigator to play, and perhaps a bit more challenging, so possibly not for a beginner. But anyway, let's see. She is a performer and she is cursed traded, and your maximum hand size is reduced by 3, which means barring other cards which make it higher, it basically means you've got 5 cards in your hand. Now, she has this, I don't know if it's a special ability, but she has this attached ability or effect that sits with Patrice, which is during your upkeep phase, which of course is at the end of the round. Instead of drawing one card, discard all non-weakness cards in your hand and draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. So essentially her hand keeps, instead of drawing a card, you're refreshing your hand up to 5 each time, which leads to an interesting kind of gameplay effect, obviously, because you're never going to be keeping anything for very long. So it's a case of use it or lose it, because you're going to lose things fairly fast. So you're going to cycle through your cards fairly quickly, and you can see from the size of her hand, it's larger than normal. So that also means that you can expect to take a little bit of horror, I suppose, if you're cycling through your cards. Now, so that's the main thing. I mean, the benefit is, of course, that, you know, in some games, the first draw in your mulligan, you just don't quite get the cards you want, and the cards you might want might be, you know, fairly low down in the pack. Now, with Patrice, that's less of an issue, of course, because she's constantly refreshing her hand. So it also means that recursion is also quite a viable option for Patrice as well. And by recursion, of course, I mean playing and using cards from your discard pile, because you're going to have quite a lot of those. So if you want to play some kind of a recursion game, then Patrice is a good choice for that very reason. So there's lots of cards in Survivor that allow you to do that. I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head. We'll talk about them in a second. Let me just bring her up on Arkham DB so I remind myself. So things like scavenging, for example, is a good example of a card that benefits from recursion. There are also cards which benefit from having things in the discard pile, and one of those is something like Fortuitous Discovery. So you can see that particular cards are particularly strong in a Patrice Hathaway deck. And of course, as more cards come out for Arkham Horror, the card game, it becomes easier and easier to build much more specific decks around these sorts of ideas. Now, her Elder Sign effect is a pretty standard +1, but after this test ends, you may shuffle all but one card from your discard pile into your deck. So essentially, you can rebuild your deck again. So we can see how that all works. So interesting dynamics there. I think the other thing, though, is despite all of that, Patrice Hathaway, even though she's a survivor, and there are ways that survivors can benefit from failure, as we know, everything from Look What I Found is the obvious one, but there are others. There's the there's a number of things like is it the old key or the ancient key, that if you fail, you essentially keep it, that kind of thing. But the four wheel power says that she's going to be relying on spells and things as well to get things done, because her other stats are relatively low, and that's definitely the case in her deck. So there we go, and she's got a respectable 7/7 for health and sanity. So that's Patrice Hathaway. Interesting card. Now, if we just flip that card over and have a look at the other side, the immediate thing you see is the deck size is 42, so it's much larger than normal, and I can see why, because I think 30 something, 10 less, you'd be taking horror a lot more often, so they've been a bit more generous there. She takes Survivor cards 0 to 5, Mystic cards 0 to 2, and neutral cards 0 to 5. So she can get some of the good old, core Mystic cards, not high-level ones, but, things like your Shrivelings and your Azure Flames and your Sixth Senses and all those sorts of things. And then she has her special cards, obviously, And here's just a little bit about her. All her life, Patrice has lived for music. The soaring sonatas, the graceful arias, and the booming marches have always been her closest companions. But sometimes when she plays, she can sense some alien intelligence at the edge of her awareness, something that watches her and waits, something that hungers. The presence has been growing over the last month, and her increased nervousness is starting to spoil her ability to play the violin. That's not something she can tolerate. After her last concert at the Ward Theatre in Arkham, she has finally decided to take action. And that's a nice little reference to the Ward Theatre there, which of course features quite significantly in the wonderful campaign Path to Carcosa. So there we go. That's Patrice. So if we just go back over now, one of the things that is part of the Investigator Games is that every investigator plays with their FFG official starter deck, which is not ideal because it assumes you've got one core set, and then in this case you've got the Dream Eater expansion, so it has to draw on those cards to build the deck. But, you know, that's the same for every investigator, so that's the way it is. Now, Patrice was able to garner 6 experience points to update her deck. So if we have a look here, we can see what I've done with that. I mean, it really is a case of kind of plugging the gaps rather than an optimized deck. But you can see what I've done here. Essentially, what I've done is I've thought about the Midnight Masks. So I've put in, there's 2 Sixth Senses in there. Two Sixth Senses. There's 2 Shriveling in there now. There was only 1 before. So we've got 2 Shriveling, and I've added 2 Azure Flames. So our ability to be more aggressive and to fight has been significantly boosted by that. And so that means we can take on people like the Ghoul Priest, Wolfman Drew, that kind of thing. The other thing I've added in is Sixth Sense. So I've really lent into the Mystic cards here because, of course, we do have the Willpower of 4. And Sixth Sense, of course, is excellent for getting clues. Yes, whilst we've got the flashlight, really Sixth Sense is the best way to get clues. And again, in the Midnight Masks, getting clues is at a premium. We don't have a lot of time to mess around, so that's that. So I added in the Azure Flame, I added in 2 Sixth Senses, I put in a second Holy Rosary for obvious reasons. Whilst the Rabbit's Foot is nice as a survivor card, if you fail something, you draw a card. Holy Rosary boosts our willpower, so if we can get the Holy Rosary out, we are then got a willpower of 5, so that's at a premium. So I've got that in there. I put in another Arcane Initiate, so we've got at least 2. I took out the Stray Cat. Again, it's fairly marginal, the Stray Cat, whereas the Arcane Initiate allows us to tutor up spells if we want, and if I'm leaning into the spells, that makes sense. And I think that was all, really. Those were the only things I added in. I took out the Cunning Distraction, which, you know, costs 5. It's very expensive. 2 Stray Cats I took out. I took out the Arcane Studies because, you know, you need cash for that. I took out the Scrying and I took out the Forbidden Knowledge. Kept everything else in there. There's a real grab bag of things. There's a Dig Deep, there's a Scavenging. So I could have lent more into the recursion with things like Scavenging, but I really wanted to get those spells in there. There's a Look What I Found, etc., etc. Now, just to cover off her signature cards, there are a couple of those. So her signature card here is Patrice's Violin. This is her signature card. I really like the artwork on this card. It's sort of something ethereal and really great. So it's a 2-cost asset. It's like a lot of signature assets. It's got 3 pips, and as a fast action, if you like, or choose and discard 1 card from your hand. Exhaust Patrice's Violin. Choose an investigator at your location to either gain 1 resource or draw a card. So that's good, because the reason that's good is because you're going to be throwing your cards away anyway. So one way to use this is with other people, but also if you're going to be chucking away cards anyway, you can use this to change things around and try and optimize your play. So in a solo game, it's not much sense using this at the end of your turn, because unless you get the resource, but to draw a card, because you would lose it again, but it can be good at the beginning. If we have a look at her signature enemy card, it's called a Watcher from Another Dimension. It's an enemy weakness. It's an extra dimensional monster. It is traded Peril, Hidden, and Hunter. So yes, basically, if you get this, and of course, you're going to be going through your deck a fair bit. So secretly add this enemy to your hand. Well, in a solo game, you don't need to do that secretly, but anyway. You may fight or evade this enemy while it is in your hand as if it were at your location. If you succeed, discard it from your hand. If you fail, spawn it engaging with you. When your deck runs out of cards, if this enemy is in your hand, it attacks you. Okay. So basically, it's kind of, it's there, but it's in your hand rather than... Now remember, you've only got a hand of 5, so it's sitting there, so it means that limits how many cards you have to deal with this. So yeah, and it's a fairly tough enemy as well. So having some kind of evasion ability or something, I mean, the only benefit is it's fairly weak with only 2 strength, so fairly easy to deal with from that perspective. So not too bad, but you do need to be aware that it's there. That's the Watcher from Another Dimension. We got Chronophobia as our weakness, our random weakness that we drew back in the day for the Gathering, which is pretty standard sort of thing. Take 2 actions, discard it. You take a direct horror if you haven't at the end of your turn. So there we go. Don't know, what do you think in terms of the different changes that I made? I think Patrice is pretty flexible. The thing I like about Patrice is there's quite a lot of flexibility in her deck. It's a large deck. So that's good because it gives you lots of options. You'll never, you're always turning over your cards, which is good. So, which means for interesting play. So we'll see how she goes. So there we go. That's Patrice's deck. So I think that's all. Patrice is standing here at the house. It's early morning in Arkham. Of course, we do these all early in the morning. I had a good chat to her in the trailer. Thank you, Miskatonic Trailers, as always, for your trailer hire before we started. So Patrice is reasonably confident. She's realistic. I mean, she doesn't get overly nervous normally being in front of crowds, and there are quite a lot of crowds around Arkham watching how Patrice will go, but she's used to performing to crowds, so that's pretty good. The main thing she worries about, like with all her performances, is that she'll start getting these extra dimensional things happening while she's trying to do things, and that can really throw her off her game, literally. So she's hoping that doesn't happen. She's looking at the house, but she won't be buying it because actually, when she's not performing musically, she often helps Diana Stanley in her real estate business on a casual basis, depending on how well her performances are paying. But every so often, she helps her out, and so she's been showing some people around this particular piece of real estate anyway. I think she's just adjusting the for sale sign as we speak. So there you go. Okay, so I think that's all. We just need to read out the agenda and the act, and then we can just wait for the bell to go. So Agenda 1A, Predator or Prey. Lita seems convinced of a conspiracy within the city of Arkham. She believes that a secret cult serves the ghouls that live in the crypts beneath the city, and that several of the cult's prominent members are scattered throughout Arkham. As you begin searching for them, you can't shake the feeling that you too are being hunted Action, resign. You don't want to risk taking too long, so you head to safety with the information you've gathered. I wonder if anybody's resigned in the first agenda. Can't imagine why you would, but I guess it's possible. And Act 1A, uncovering the conspiracy. You have one night to find members of this cult and unveil their plan. The more members of the cult you can find and interrogate before midnight, the better. Investigators spend 2 clues per investigator as a group. Draw the top card of the cultist deck. That's an action. Find as many unique cultist enemies as you can. Add them to the victory display. If there are 6 unique cultist enemies in the victory display, you are a goddamn hero. And advance. Note, not all 6 of them are in the cultist deck. So there we go, there we go, there we go. So we are all ready to roll. Oh, there it is. There is the horn to begin episode 31 of season 2 of The Midnight Masks with Patrice Hathaway. Okay, so let's just shuffle up our 45 cards. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Well, a few things we want. It would be awesome to get Shriveling, particularly, or Azure Flame in the first draw. It would also be great to have Sixth Sense, because just getting clues would be that much easier. So having offensive spells, having Sixth Sense would be great. And Holy Rosary. So I think if I manage to get those 3 things, I'll be pretty happy in the opening draw. Those are the things that I'd probably be looking for the most. Everything else is, icing on the cake. But if I can get those 3, I think, I'll be really happy with that. So let's go ahead and draw our 5 cards. So we'll draw many. 5. There we go. So what do we get here? So, right. Okay, well, there's the Sixth Sense, which is great. So that's good. I mean, Lucky is good as well. And Emergency Cash is going to be handy because spells cost. And it's all very well having spells, but if they're just sitting in your hand, you can't use them. So Emergency Cash is great. So all we're really missing is something like that. Now, the other thing to think about is, and this is important, is that whatever we draw, we're not going to keep because we're going to draw again and again and again. So it's not like in a normal game where you might not. So I actually like some of these cards, but also I've got to think about whether I'm going to use them or I'm going to lose them, because in upkeep, you are going to literally, you're literally going to discard all the cards in your hand and draw again. So, for example, look what I found. Great card, but am I going to use it in the early game where I'm doing your house, River Town, and the graveyard? Probably not. So I'd probably take that out because I'm not going to use it and I don't want to lose it. Lucky. Am I really going to use Lucky in the early game? Probably not. Unexpected Courage. The other thing is it kind of makes you use things that normally you might keep. So I probably would use Unexpected Courage because why not? As well. Although maybe not in the early game, but anyway, maybe I'll throw that in as well because I'm probably not going to use it at the beginning. If I've got Sixth Sense, that's going to kind of take advantage of those. So, and I wouldn't mind getting the Holy Rosary. So what I might do is, and again with Emergency Cash, I could think about this because I'd have to use it. But I probably will because I'll need the cash. So what I might do is I might throw these 3 in and draw another 3. We get another Sixth Sense. We get Water Protection, which is not bad. And we get Fortuitous Discovery. Well, I don't mind this going into our discard pile because the first Fortuitous Discovery isn't really worth much because the X event is the number of copies of Fortuitous Discovery in your discard pile. Investigate, you get plus X for this investigation. So the thing is, the first Fortuitous Discovery is kind of pretty wasted. But if you can get it into your discard pile, then all good. So there we go. That's where we're starting with our 5 cards. It really does make playing quite interesting. So we've got to think about what we're going to do now. We've got 3 actions. We're here at the house. So first action, I'm going to obviously spend 3. And I'm going to bring out 6 cents. So that's one of our magic slots taken up. So we don't need the other one, so that's fine. We can just throw, those 2 are going to get thrown away. So we've got these 2 cards left, which are going to get chucked away. So second action, normally I would think about drawing a card and taking a resource, but again, that's kind of got limited benefit for Patrice. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to play my emergency cash and get myself 3 more resources. So I'm back up to 5. And then for my third action, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to investigate the house. So we are talking about a 2 versus a, I'm using 6 cents obviously, 2 versus a 4. So it's 2 versus a 4. I might as well throw in water protection because I'm going to lose it anyway. And it won't be around for the encounter phase, so I might as well make that a 2 versus a 5. In fact, let's make it a 2 versus a 6. We might as well. Really interesting, isn't it, how it changes the way that you play. So oh, hold on. What am I doing? I can't do that. It's willpower. 2 versus 5. So 2 versus 5 willpower. Let's see what the chaos bag has, and I get a +1. So that's good. So I get the clue. That goes into my discard pile. And there we go. So pretty good round to start with. We got ourselves our 6 cents out, which I'm really pleased about. Then I played emergency cash. Got myself back up to 5. So if I draw something like the shriveling, I've got plenty of cash around. And then we successfully investigated and got the clue. So next time we can get ourselves up to Rivertown and bring out the first cultist. So there we go. So let's move into the enemy phase, or yes, the enema phase, as I like to call it. There's no enemies or enemas to speak of. So we will move in to the good old upkeep phase. So now, I just realized something in Octagon that Octagon does, which I really appreciate, is when we get to the upkeep phase, Octagon draws a card for you, which is normally really awesome. It's really good. But in terms of Patrice, it's a little, we've just got to be a bit careful here, because it's during your upkeep phase, instead of drawing 1 card, discard all your non-weakness cards and draw until you have 5 cards. So it already drew this card, but I've got to get rid of these other 2. So I discard these 2 cards. There we go. Let's just remember we've got a fortuitous discovery. We drew open gate 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our new deck of 5. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, so there we go. We've got a new deck. We've got a new set of cards here. We've got open gate. It's fast, attached to your location. Investigators may move between any 2 locations. So I'm thinking that that's actually a good thing to put onto Rivertown. Not your house, but Rivertown, because zinging back to Rivertown can be super handy. And so I think that might be worthwhile doing that. We've got Azure Flame, so we can bring that out, which allows us to fight. Not quite as good as my brain's not working, as shriveling, but pretty good. We got scavenging. Yeah. We've got the baseball bat, which we could also bring out for 2 hand slots to give us extra fight. And then we've got survival instinct. But again, we play these, it's play them or lose them. So it's, Really interesting. Okay, I will stop saying it's really interesting. That's the last time I'm going to say that. Okay, so that was upkeep. Let's move into the Mythos phase. The first Doom is down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. Speaking of things happening, which Wings of Darkness, this can actually get us to the Rivertown. Test 4 if you fail, take a damage and horror, and move to a central location. So the question is, do we want to fail this? So the thing is, we could throw in Open Gate, we could throw in Survival Instinct, which would give us a 4 against a 4, but to be honest, we're unlikely to succeed. And actually, even though we'll take a damage and a horror, I like the idea of actually getting a free move. So I'm actually going to let this happen. We're going to fail. We would have failed anyway. So we take a damage and a horror. Yep. And we move to Rivertown. That's great. I mean, that gives us a free action right there. So not unhappy about that at all. I think it's worth the damage and the horror. So there we go. Yeah, we are now at Rivertown. And it's our turn. So let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Patrice. So first of all, I am going to spend 1, and this is fast. Play during your turn, attached to a location. Investigators may move between any 2 locations with attached open gates as if they were connected. So I'm going to put this here. Just put it at the back. To the back. I'm going to put a little symbol on it to tell me that there's a gate here. I'll use the little pentagram symbol. So that tells me, because then if I get another one somewhere else, I know I can zing between it. So that was a fast action. We'll keep that there. So that's that. So we've still got 1 action. So, what do we do? There's a couple of things we could do. Why don't we just, first of all, let's investigate using our 6th sense. So we are a 4 versus a 1. I'm just going to go a 4. 4 versus a 1. 3 or better. Chaos Bakers is a -2, so we succeed. So that's 2 clues. That was our first action. Second action, I'm going to throw in the clues. The thing about the Midnight Mass is it's easy to get kind of caught up in doing stuff, but at the end of the day, it's getting cultists out and getting them in the time. So let's shuffle up the cultist deck, see who we get first. We get Peter Warren there. So there's Peter Warren. So that's fine. We need 2 more clues for him. So the question is now, what do we do from here? We can either move into the graveyard. I'm just aware, though, that we don't have any offensive spells. So we've got 2 choices. We could bring out the baseball bat, which would mean we're fighting for 4. Or we could bring out Azure Flame. Now, I think we've only got 1 baseball. Oh, we've got 2 baseball bats. Which one shall we use? I think I'm going to spend 2. I'm going to bring out the baseball bat. It's going to be the next thing. So we've got that on hand. Because the thing about things like Azure Flame, there's more of them, but they're also more limited. So that's our 3rd action. So there you go. Was that right? We were here. We did the fast action with the gate. Yes, we investigated. We got the clue. We brought out a cultist, and then we brought out the baseball bat. So next time, let's pop into the graveyard, get ourselves clues so that we can deal with Mr. Warren. That's all we could bash. We could go into Miskatonic University and hit Mr. Warren around the head. But I think I'd rather go and get the clues. It's probably, although it would take us only... I think we'll go into the graveyard and get the clues. Okay. All right, so that's the end of that. Pretty good. Okay, let's move into the enemy phase. Peter Warren's not doing anything, so we move into upkeep. So we get drawn to the flame, so we throw these 3 in. There we go. These 3 get thrown in. They go into the discard pile. We draw 4 more. There we go. Okay. So we got drawn to the flame. Discover 2 clues. We got another fortuitous discovery, a leather coat, arcane initiate, and the rabbit's foot. So just going to make a decision about what we do with all those next time. Yes. Okay. So we will move into the mythos phase. 2 doom is down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And it's got a hunting shadow. You must either spend a clue or take 2 damage. Well, we don't have any clues, so we have to take 2 damage. Ouch. There we go. So we might need the leather coat, thinking about it. There we go. Okay. So a bit battered and blooded. We move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Patrice. Now we've got 2 options here. We can either go ahead and get those clues, or we could go straight to Miskatonic University and attack Peter Warren, because we've got the baseball bat. Although he's 3, so it's going to take a lot of time. So it's actually more efficient to do the clues, isn't it? So, yeah, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try being as efficient as possible. First action, I'm worried about this, so I'm going to bring out the leather coat because I want to make sure I've got a bit more of that. So that's the first action. Second action, I'm going to move into the graveyard. Now to move into the graveyard, we have to test 3 willpower. And we are a 4, but we can make that a 5. I want to keep that. Let's make that a 6. So a 6 on a 3. That's right. 6 on a 3. Chaos Bag gives us a tablet, which is a -3. So we succeed. Thank goodness. 4, 5, 6. 6 on a 3. So we succeed. And then I'm going to play Drawn to the Flame, which means we have to draw from the encounter deck. And of course, we get something we didn't want. We get a Hunting Night Gaunt. However, we discover 2 clues at our location. And that means we get a victory point and the crowd goes wild. That's great. However, we did end up with Hunting Night Gaunt. But we've gotten ourselves the 2 clues. So that was nice and efficient. We brought out the leather coat to give ourselves a bit more armor. We then moved to the graveyard, and then we used Drawn to the Flame to get the 2 clues. Okay. I suppose I could have used Fortuitous Discovery, but there's going to be 2 of those in, so we can use that later. So anyway, there we go. So let's move into the enemy phase. Yes, and we do take a horror and a damage. We'll put a damage on the leather coat, and we will take a horror. There we go. So we move into the upkeep phase. So this goes into the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our chronophobia. Okay. There we go. We got one of our weaknesses. The other one can't be far away. So there we go. Okay. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. Let's move into the mythos phase. There are 3 doom. We're halfway through. Let's see what the encounter deck has. Mysterious chanting. Place 2 doom on the nearest cultist enemy, and that would be Peter Warren. There we go. So that's going to push that up to 5. So that will essentially flip if we don't do something about it really quickly. I'm not sure there's anything we can... Oh boy, that's not good, is it? Okay. All right. And boy, that is a problem. Okay, let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on to Patrice. So we are here with the Hunting Night Gaunt. So this is a bit of a problem because getting over to Peter Warren and getting rid of those clues makes things very difficult. Plus we've got chronophobia as well. Things have suddenly gotten really bad really quickly. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So, what is the best thing to do? Well, I think the best thing to do is to not waste time moving around, unfortunately. I'm glad I brought out the leather coat. I think probably the thing to do is, first of all, to evade the hunting. And we're going to lose all this stuff, so we might as well start using some of it. So let's evade the Hunting Night Gaunt. So our first action is we're going to look to evade. So we are a 2, but we can make that a 4. A 4, is that all we can do? Yes, a 4 versus a 1, but any negatives are doubled. So let's try 4 versus a 1. Chaos Bag gives us well, it's -1, so it's a -2. So 4, 3, 2. 2 versus a 1, so we succeed. And we evade the Hunting Night Gaunt. That's our first action. Now we've got 2 actions left. Do we get rid of chronophobia, or do we try and get out of here? Now the Masked Hunter is going to be on us because we've got 2 actions left, so we can't use that, can we? So I'm just trying to think. It takes an action to parley with Peter Warren, so we would get over there and then that wouldn't work. We don't have any other way of doing that. So we either move back to Rivertown and I'm not sure what we would do because no point drawing a card, no point taking money. So that's kind of a waste. But if we stay here, look, I think we stay here, and I think we get rid of chronophobia. We don't want that on us. So that's our 2 actions. So we're going to be standing and fighting here. We've got the baseball bat, if nothing else. So we move into the enemy phase. Nothing happens. We move into upkeep. So we lose these 3 cards. We draw 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we now have, oh dear, this is all happening all at the same time. This is not good. Okay, so we don't have to deal with this now. You may fight its peril hidden and hunter. You may fight or evade this enemy while it's in your hand. If you succeed, discard it. Okay. Oh boy. This is the problem with when playing solo, is that if things just start to pile up, it starts to get very, very difficult. And it really should have played the Azure Flame now, I wish, because we've got lots of willpower. Anyway. Okay. All right. So we move into the Mythos phase, and there we go. Mythos phase triggers. Drawn to the Flame really messed things up, didn't it? Anyway. So we flip this, and we have the Masked Hunter. Oh, hello, Patrice. Oh, hello, Hunting Night Gaunt. Oh, you're in a bit of a pickle, aren't you? So, yes, yes, we are in quite a pickle. Yes. So let's put the other agenda down. Time is running short. It certainly is, with things have just gone from worse to worse. That 2 doom on Peter Warren was a real killer. I mean, that really, really messed us up. Okay, so, okay, we've just got to draw from the encounter deck, and the encounter card is an Acolyte. Okay, where should we put our dear Acolyte? Let's put him somewhere fairly innocuous. let's just put him at, because it's going to add another doom, isn't it? Let's put him somewhere where if we want to, we can go and deal with him. If we need to. So here we go. So that's that. So we're in the investigation phase. So here we are with the Masked Hunter and the Hunting Night Gaunt. We don't have any spells, but we do have the baseball bat. So that's something. So that gives us +2 for an attack. And we can do +1 damage. Now the Masked Hunter is a 6, obviously. So it's giving us a 4 on a 4. The other way is to try and evade the Masked Hunter and evade the Hunting Night Gaunt. Oof. Because we've also got Watcher from Another Dimension as well. Oh boy. See, look at all these willpower things. We could. If only I kept the Azure Flames anyway. So either we just try and stand and fight here because we're going to lose these cards anyway, or we attempt to evade. Because if we do, we can do 6 on a 4. And it will do 2 points of damage, but we've still got 4 more to go. And then we could do a 5 on a 4. And if that then fails, then I suppose we could look to evade something. Is it better to do that? And then we'll get a refreshment of our hand. Oh, but this as well. Oh boy. I think we need to deal with this because this is 3 damage. I think I'm going to fight this and then try and evade the other 2. I think that's what I'm going to have to try and do. Let's go ahead because we need to deal with this. So I'm going to use the baseball bat. So that's a 4 to 4 fight, but we can make that a 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 on a 5. Yep, let's go ahead. 7 on a 5. Chaos Bag gives us a +1, so we succeed. And we don't lose it. So we do 2 points of damage, so we get rid of Watcher from Another Dimension. That's right, isn't it? Yep. So that was our first action. With 2 actions left. So we got rid of the Watcher from Another Dimension. Woo! That's one thing, because that damage would be crucial. Second action, I think we just try and evade as much as we can, because we're not going to be able to fight them really. I mean we could do 4 on 3, 4 on 4. I think we're better looking at evasion. Do we try and evade the Masked Hunter, or do we try and evade the Night Gaunt? See, X is the highest number of doom. The skulls are -2. So Oof. Trying to think. Oh no, we don't want to be playing the... I was going to think, should we play the Arcane Initiate? But that's not a good idea. Is 2 or 2 or 1 versus 2? So 2 on 2 means 0 + 1 Elder Sign works. And with him, if we get a -1, we fail. So it's actually 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, I think. I think whichever one we evade, it doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and try and evade the Masked Hunter for our second action. Chaos Bag gives us another +1. Wow, how lucky was that? So we evade the Mars Hunter. We've got one action left. Now, is it worth moving to Rivertown and taking the damage and the horror? Because that gets us away from the Mars Hunter, but then we would take it again, so we'd end up taking 2 and 2. Or do we try and hit him? Because we could do a 4 versus a 3, which is better than the evasion. I might do that, actually. I'm going to go ahead and try and hit the hunting night gaunt. So I'm going to attack the hunting night gaunt. So we are a 4 versus a 3. Chaos Bag gives us a skull. That's bad. It succeeds. So -1. Yes, but we lose. We lose that, but we do 2 points of damage. So that's something. Dear. Okay, so that was a mixed bag, really. We got rid of the multi-dimensional weakness, which was good. We evaded, and we wouldn't have evaded. So if we wouldn't have evaded the hunting night gaunt anyway. So we did something. We evaded the Mars Hunter, and then we did 2 damage to the hunting night gaunt with the baseball bat. Unfortunately, we lost our baseball bat, and I'm now wishing I'd put the Azure Flame out. Anyway, too bad. So sad. Okay, so we move into the enemy phase. We take a damage and a horror. So let's lose the leather coat. We'll just take a horror. And then we move into upkeep. So the Mars Hunter is back on us. These go. They go. And we get 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. All right. So there we go. Well, at least we get a fight card. That's something. But how are we going to bring it out? So I think... And we've got no evasion. Okay. So, with 2 doom down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And the encounter deck, if you have no clues, false lead, gain surge. If you have 1 or more clues, test 4. Okay, so we're testing 4 versus 2. We might as well put in this 3. Great. So 3. 3 versus 4. Chaos Bag gives us a tablet. If you fail, place 1 of your clues on your location. Ouch. So we lose that victory point. And then for each fail by, place another clue. So we drop both of our clues on our location. Things are just going from bad to worse. Oh dear. So, yes, let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Patrice. Things have gone horribly wrong. I'm really, 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 really regretting not playing that Azure Flame now. That was a mistake. I got overconfident, and now I'm paying the price because I've had lots of willpower cards, and they've been wasted. Okay, so what are we going to do here? So, okay, so I think the first thing we need to do is try and evade the Mars Hunter. So I think, again, let's commit this. So that's a 3 versus a 2. A 3 versus a 2. Chaos Bag gives us an Elder Sign. So we succeed. Okay, so we succeed. So we've evaded the Mars Hunter again, amazingly. That goes in there. Now it says here, after this test, you may shuffle all but 1 card from your discard pile. All but 1 card. Okay, well I know which card. Let's put them all in. But let's keep out, obviously, this one. We don't want to... Let's shuffle them all in. Shuffle into deck. Yes. Let's put this out so we don't put that in. That's very nice. Yep. Let's shuffle them up again. So that's the first action. That was a good outcome. Second action. Yeah. What do we do here? Because so we could look to evade again, or we could take. So we've got two options here. We could no, there's a few options here. We could look to evade, so a 1-up, which means basically we would need a 0 plus 1 or an elder sign again to evade. We could fight 2 on 3, or we could fight, 3 on 3, equal. We could play the knife and take an attack of opportunity, and then we could discard the knife for a 4 on a 3. And kill. So either it's a 3 on a 3, or we could play the Holy Rosary. That's not helpful. I'm going to try that. It's a risky one, but I think I'm going to play the knife and take a damage and a horror. And then I'm going to discard the knife and give myself a 4 on a 3. Chaos Bag gives me... I guess that didn't work. Oh, it was worth a try. Oh, boy. Auto fail. Oh, well. So, we succeeded in invading the Masked Hunter. We then played the knife for an attack of opportunity, and we then threw the knife and missed so spectacularly that with an auto fail. Oh, dear. Oh, well. Keep going. So, enemy phase, we take another damage and horror. This is really getting bad. Upkeep. The Masked Hunter is back on us. We lose these cards. He's go back in. Drop 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, okay. And then we move into the Mythos phase. 2, 3. I mean, we're just getting nowhere, aren't we? Let's see what the encounter deck. Hunting Shadow. You must either spend a clue, or take 2 damage, and that's it. We are gone. That is it. Unfortunately, Patrice Hathaway crumbles in a heap. Just too much damage. So there we go. Poor old Patrice. I was hoping she would do so well. But unfortunately, it was a cascading set of events which really kind of made things very difficult. It all stems back from the choice to not bring out the Azure Flame. If we'd had the Azure Flame, bizarrely, we never got any of our shriveling. But if we'd played the Azure Flame, we would have probably been okay. But then what happened was there was extra doom put down, which triggered the Masked Hunter. We got the Hunting Night Gaunt because of Drawn to the Flame. We did that as well. And then things just got from bad to worse. We got our weakness as well, which we managed to deal with, but it was just all too much. And we even dropped our clues back on the graveyard, so we ended up with no victory points at all. Going down in turn 7 with a no cultists, with a physical trauma. So that was really disappointing. Oh dear. Well, never mind. That's the way it goes sometimes in the Investigator Games. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Now, next time, we will be taking Luke Robinson through the Midnight Masks. Yes, Luke Robinson, who is the mystic, obviously, for the Dream Eaters campaign. Likes to zip around on gates and things like that. So we will take him through and we will see how he goes. But until then, I'm Krabby Terror 8. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.